It's not every day that we stumble upon a story about not judging a book by its cover. However, the original story of Frankenstein by Mary Shelley takes this simple message and turns it into a moral dilemma about the exact percentage of judgment that is ethical when judging someone's character. In this story, we meet a mad scientist named Victor Frankenstein, who at a young age is obsessed with dead bodies and later in life digs up dead bodies to invent immortality. Yeah, this guy is pretty fucked up. The creature that he creates out of these dead bodies is referred to as the monster and various other insulting names. Turns out that the monster is pretty smart and fluently picks up 2 languages before he is even old enough to be considered not a toddler. The only problem is that with great responsibility comes great ugliness. Yeah, the monster is pretty much what you would expect a walking dead body to look like. Victor decides that he isn't fit to be a parent and makes the responsible decision to go to sleep and just not think about the giant intelligent baby he created. Years later, we find out that Victor's superhuman toddler killed all of his family, except for his cousin Elizabeth. Victor decides he wants to marry his cousin, because that's definitely what the most important thing to do is when your child is murdering everyone you care about. Just as you might expect, the problem that Victor has been ignoring decides to kill Elizabeth as well. Oh yeah, and apparently the monster is just really sad because he never got to have quality time with his father. And also because every human he makes contact with decides that an intelligent undead toddler is not a very good thing. Now, what does this mess of a moral dilemma really tell us about how to treat undead toddlers? Should we kill them? Should we raise them regardless of how different they are to us? Or should we abandon them? The answer to these questions lies in the story of Hollow Knight. Hollow Knight is the story about a worm named the Pale King, who is able to see the future, and decides that he should put thousands of lives on the line so he can have a little power. One day his kingdom Hollownest falls prey to a plague, which is referred to as the infection, and various other insulting names. Okay, hold up. After reading through this script, I realized that most of you probably don't know Hollow Knight lore. So instead of making the rest of my video essay more palatable to the general audience, I decided that I'm going to give you a massive lore dump. So here's the entire backstory of the infection in 30 seconds. By the way, spoiler warning. So before the time of the Pale King, there was a different bug in charge. Her name was the Radiance, because she was literally a light and she also controlled dreams. One day she decided that she was lonely, so she created a bunch of moths to worship her. The moths were all chill for a while until the Pale King showed up and tried to get the moths to worship him instead. So the moths all set up a committee and discussed the issue. In the end, they decided to forget about the being who literally created them in order to worship a bug less than half their size. The Radiance didn't take too kindly to the entire moth tribe forgetting about her, so she transformed herself into the flu in order to kill everyone. Since she's a dream god, the flu attacks the bugs who dream too much. So of course the Pale King kills a bunch of infants in order to try to contain this sickness. Yeah, this guy is pretty fucked up. One of the dead babies gets to be the one to contain the infection. They are referred to as the Hollow Knight, and various other insulting names. Turns out that the Hollow Knight isn't really hollow because, unlike the monster from Frankenstein, they got to spend quality time with their father before being locked up in a room for eternity with only the moth to keep them company. So yeah, maybe the Pale King shouldn't have spent time with his child after all. Once the Pale King realizes that his Hollow Knight isn't able to contain the infection, he makes the responsible decision to take his entire palace and place it inside of the mind of one of his servants and not think about the giant mess he created. Years later, we find out that there is another one of the Pale King's hollow babies out on the loose. They are affectionately referred to as the Knight. The Knight finds the Pale King's wife, the Pale Lady. She's a tree and apparently really likes making babies. She likes making babies so much that she stuffed herself into a cocoon in order to stop making babies. This is probably because she's done with putting up with her husband's tendency towards the murdering of children. Just as you might expect, the problem that the Pale King has been ignoring has spread throughout the entire kingdom, so the Pale Lady decides to give the Knight an item to help it become the next Hollow Knight. Oh yeah, and apparently the Hollow Knight really doesn't want to be the Hollow Knight anymore anyway, and stabs itself to help you take the infection out of it. Now, what does this mess of a moral dilemma really tell us about how to treat undead toddlers? Should we kill them? Should we raise them? Or should they all be abandoned in a dark pit until a few of them escape and decide to take matters into their own hands? In the story of Frankenstein, the toddler is abandoned, and this is seen as bad. In the story of Hollow Knight, all of the toddlers are killed and thrown into a pit in order to try and create a hollow baby. This is seen as kind of good-ish. One toddler is raised properly, which fucks everything up, and the other 5,000 children are abandoned, which ends up actually sort of saving the kingdom in the end. This means that the answer to the question is very clear. Don't let people like Victor and the Pale King have babies or be in charge of anything, because they are very bad people, / bugs, and make very bad decisions.